Hey guys, I'm back with another video, and today I want to have the talk. So today I want to talk about, you know, living in the South, and I want to address my black people in the South. Whether you're a native of the South or you're new to the South. I know there's been a lot of things that have been going on across the region, and I have a very special guest that will be joining me on this video, which is my husband. We're going to cover some important things that our people need to know, um, and I'm going to let him go on first.
All right, how y'all doing? I just came in to join with my wife tonight, basically going over some topics, mainly for people down south. Us Southerners, as most like to say, and pretty much my experience growing up in the South, being a black male. I grew up in rural Louisiana, southeast Louisiana. I grew up in a little town per se. 40 minutes north of New Orleans, 40 minutes east of Baton Rouge. So, some may say, that's the heart of the South. But, it's a lot of rules that, I was taught growing up, and there was a lot of rules I had to follow. Number one being, always being mindful of your surroundings. Now, the town I pretty much grew up in is what you call pretty much a salt and pepper town. You got your blacks, you got your whites. Mostly, the blacks had their own little section, their own few sections throughout the town. Then you had parts of the town where, a lot of the white people live. And we was always taught, just be aware of your surroundings at all times. You know, Me growing up in a black community, in a black neighborhood per se, we didn't have no white neighbors, where I grew up at, in my neighborhood. To be honest with you, only time I seen white people was when, law enforcement or, it was drug transactions taking place. I grew up in a crime riddled, drug riddled community. So it had a lot of activity like that going on in my neighborhood. So basically being mindful of your surroundings, your parents and your grandparents would teach you certain things like, when you in town per se, for those of y'all that grew up in small towns, when you in town, that necessarily mean you at the grocery store, you at, your local mom and pop shops buying, your whatnots. And basically what they always taught us, when you go in these stores, don't touch them white folks stuff. That's how black people down south talk. They'll tell you that, keep your hands off them white folks shit. And basically what they mean, don't go in these stores touching stuff that you're not about to buy. You know what I'm saying? When you went into a store, they taught you to be in there. It's kind of like, it's like going on a mission. They already know what you want to get when you go in that store. Know where that's located at. You grab that stuff, pay for it, you get out of there. It's just simple rules like that you learn down south because, in the history of the South, white folk are known for, blaming especially black men for crimes that they did not commit. And, that's what we was taught from day one. Always be mindful of law enforcement. If you're in a vehicle, keep your hands on the steering wheel. Turn the lights on inside the car. Make sure you got the car turned completely off. Have all the windows down in the car. That way you want to assure officer safety. Because, a lot of times in the South, you had certain kind of law enforcement that targeted young black men. Mainly where I'm from and a lot of places, not just where I'm from, but, black men participated in a lot of drug activity. So we always had the mindset, when we got pulled over, the first thing the police gonna think, where the dope at? I done had partners of mine, had they and the whole inside of their car ripped to shreds, you know what I'm saying? Because the police looking for drugs. And them being black males, most likely they got people in their car, 2 to 3 people in the vehicle. The cops, they going to rip it apart trying to search for drugs. So, it's a lot of that you got to learn in the South. And one of the other things we always learned, when we was teenagers, in my neighborhood, the local junior high we was going to was probably a few miles, about a mile from my neighborhood. So a lot of us we used to walk to school at times, and sometimes we rode bicycles. But we was always taught when we walk into school, you walk in groups. You always want to be at least, 7 to 8 deep. You want to be more much. You want to have many as people you have with you, but the minimum you want to be at least 5, 6, 7, 8 deep because you always want to be clicked up. You know what I'm saying? Because you never know what kind of situation you might run across walking through these different neighborhoods. Dealing with white people, man, and it's kind of a it's a kind of bad mindset when you think about it, but growing up in the South, this is what you had to know. And this is what your parents and your grandparents, they had to instill this in you, man, because, it was a lot of times, hey, a lot of young black men was victimized, whether they were, they were victimized through violence, or they was just pretty much, they fell victim to the judicial system, meaning they were accused of crimes that they didn't commit. Due to a white man or a white person saying, hey, he did it. And another thing, we was always taught as you got older, don't go nowhere without a firearm on you, without a pistol on you. You never know what you might come across when you're dealing with these white supremacists out here. And we had a 2 rule minimum where I'm from. It's like, hey, you have a pistol and a pocket knife. Those were the 2 P's: pistol and a pocket knife. You know, that way if the knife don't work, the pistol gonna take care of everything for you. It's just all about that's how I was pretty much brought up, man. Just protecting yourself on both ends, meaning not becoming a victim of violence and not becoming a victim of the law. Because us as black men, we were always accused of certain things. Breaking in cars. Even back in the in the early days, they always had this thing about black men raping white women and stuff. Um, it's just a variety of things that you can get caught up in. Being black in the South, me being from Louisiana, man, there was a lot of that shit going on. Louisiana, for those of y'all that don't know, we hold the #1 incarceration rate. It's a lot of brothers doing wrong, but for the most part, a lot of brothers done a whole lot of time in that state for things and crimes that they didn't commit. So growing up, that's what my parents and my grandparents always wanted us to avoid. Growing up in the community that I grew up in.
Okay, so I'm going to reiterate some things. And from the beginning, it started with our elders. If you don't have an elder, you need to go find one. The grandmas, the papas, the big papas, the big mamas, the parents, the nannies, these are all the people that kept us in line and guided us on where we could go and where not to go. They knew who a lot of these white people were in our towns and cities, who were behind these badges and these storefronts. They knew the bloodlines. They knew who were the husbands, the wives, who was the in-laws, cousins. They knew the whole breakdown of the system, which led back to the very beginning of time when we were in bondage. Everything made a lot of sense on how the system was running. And this information was our first line of defense. And some of the guidelines that we lived by, and I just got a few, but there's way more, but these are the main ones. Number 1, you need to own a gun and keep it on you, period. If you can't be with someone else, it better be you and your girlfriend, which is your pistol. You need somebody with you to protect you. Number 2, don't go nowhere by yourself walking or on a bike. Stay out of the sundown towns. You don't stop there. You don't want to break down there, and you don't want to turn around there. Number 3, after dark. Don't be messing around on these county roads, leaving the clubs late at night, because sometimes you live in a smaller town and you have to travel to across a couple of neighboring towns or cities to hit the clubs. You don't want to get caught out there at night broke down on side the road, or you trying to take some back street and you really don't know the area, trying to cut through somewhere and end up in some type of trap. Number 4, you never stop for a white man broke down on side of the road and he's flagging you down. He can see you and he know that you're black and he's trying to get your attention. That could be a setup. You never stop when you see that. Number 5, you do not go in the white part of town for anything. There's nothing over there for you. Number 6, when you go into downtown, know that you are being watched. Handle your business and get out of there. Number 7, you are to never be the only black anything. And when we was coming up as kids, you don't go swimming and be the only black person. You don't go camping and you're the only black person. You're going to sleep over to somebody's house. You're the only black person. And to mothers, keep your children close. Your boys and your girls. Number 8, if you get pulled over in the car, like my husband said, keep your hands on the steering wheel. Don't be fidgeting all around, trying to find stuff. Keep your insurance and stuff over your sun visor. That way, all you got to do is just reach up and grab your stuff. Number 9, keep a gun on you at all times traveling. Meaning if you're going to another state or you're going to drive across town and you got to go like an hour or so, keep a gun on you. When you go to the grocery store, when you're out fishing, because you're out in the woods somewhere fishing, when you clubbing at night, you need to have a pistol on you. And number 10, never let your guard down and get too comfortable. A lot of our people have got comfortable out here. They think because the time changed, the mentality did. The mentality never changed. If you notice, most of our people that get victimized, they're by themselves. And I want to address some people that are new to the South, black people from the West Coast, East Coast, Caribbean, throughout the world that have moved to the United States and they live in the South. You need to scope out the areas where you are moving to. Get to know the locals. Know the history of the place that you're moving to. Don't just move to these places because you see cheap land and you see that you can buy up a bunch of stuff. Know who you're around. Because if you talk to the local people, they'll tell you, hey, don't move over there. Don't move to that suburb. Because a lot of times y'all are bordering sundown towns. And you don't want to border a sundown town. And don't turn your nose up at the people that are from the South thinking that they just country and slow and they don't know anything because they can save your life. Stay connected with your people. And if you are that person that wants to live in those sundown towns or near them and you're new to the South, then you're going to be at the mercy of the court because you're going to put yourself in danger and you're going to put your children in danger, and everybody that comes to visit you is going to be in danger off a decision that you made that was bad. So overall, living in the South, you just got to know how to move. It's a wonderful place to stay as far as living, culture, but there is a dark past here in the South. And if you don't know the black survival guidelines of living in the South, you will perish. You will fall victim to it. I hope that everybody get the message. We tried to cover as much as we could. Leave a comment. If you got to add anything else to what we said, you can add it in the comment section. And I think my husband want to add something else.
No, I just want to pretty much piggyback on what you were saying as far as I want to go back to being the only black, anywhere. It was this thing growing up, and it still is this thing. I still hear people say the same stuff. Black people used to have this big deal out of being the first black in this neighborhood, or being the first black, on this job per se. The reason why we say you don't want to be the only black person in your community, because guess what? The society we live in, it teaches you that. It shows you that. It puts it directly in your vision. When you're the only black living in your neighborhood, you're putting yourself and your children in jeopardy. You got to understand that. Because you will be targeted. You will be targeted. Whether it's being accused of stealing something, or you'll be targeted as far as them somebody wanting to bring harm to you guys. As many times I done heard stories growing up, so and so being the first black in their neighborhood, and then you'll hear white folks, spray painting their house, nigger on their house, or just trashing their yard, egging their cars. You open yourself up for all kind of stuff like that when you want to be the only black person on your street or in your neighborhood. You know, we have to hold on to our black neighborhoods. In a lot of ways. A lot of ways we get so caught up in trying to lead a hood to where we really, we really leaving something that belongs to us. We understand the hood, the neighborhood, whatever you want to call it. It has its elements. And a lot of reasons why it has its elements because good people done gave up on them communities. And when good people leave a community, they leave that community open for the savages to destroy it. Long as it was good people in the community, it was always a balance in the black neighborhood. But once the good, hardworking people left the black neighborhood to go live in the suburbs or live amongst other, white people, that's when our black communities went down to nothing. To where is that now? You got some black communities, they just basically vacant lots. You ride down some streets, you just see nothing but ran down houses. They call them bandos. You see a bunch of just vacant property. No one left there. Look like little ghost towns. You know what I'm saying? Look like little war towns. Because a lot of people done left their community. Trying to, upgrade their life or upgrade their residency. That's cool. But we can't never forget about the black neighborhood. And another thing I want to just piggyback off of, the importance of keeping a firearm on you at all times. If you're a person, a black person, that's above 21 years old, you don't have a felony. You don't have any you never had any run-ins with authority, with the law. There's no reason you shouldn't have a firearm. It's not about trying to, be a gangster, a street nigga and all that. It's about your protection, man. Because let me tell you something. When you don't have a firearm, your chances of survival are almost at zero. I was always taught the man with the gun, that's the man in charge. And you don't never want to be that person that ain't got no gun and you got a crazy individual with a gun. Man, you ain't got no chance of survival. You ain't going to survive. So you got to always put yourself in a position, especially when you with your family. You got a lot of people that say, oh, well, I don't want to have all that around me and my kids and this, that, and the third. Man, look, that's the perfect time to have a firearm with you when you with your children, man. Because you never know what kind of situation you may be in. When you got small children with you or you got children with you at all, that's you kind of most vulnerable in a position like that. So why would you not want to have a firearm with you, when you in the midst of your children and your family? It's all about protection. Of course, it's all about being responsible when you got a firearm. But for the most part, it's about protection and being willing to protect if your life is in danger or if your family life is in danger. And that's pretty much I wanted to just piggyback off of that. And then another thing, too, for the people that's from the East Coast and the West Coast that's moving down south, yeah, like my wife said, you got to understand the history of where you moving to. And you can't be too uppity. You can't be too high and mighty to where you don't want to deal with the local black people in whatever town or city you living in. Those are the people that's going to be able to put you on game about the city or the town you living in. You always want to stay in tune and stay in touch with the community. Because we understand most people that's coming from these different regions that's moving down south, most of them have professional careers, Most of them are corporate workers, corporate people with education. But you don't never want to put yourself in a position of where you too uppity to deal with the local black people in whatever city, town, and state you moving in. Because those are the people that's going to put you on game. And those are the people that maybe save your life when you maneuvering through these certain places in the South.
Okay, and as far as the cities, the big cities, I think a lot of people get fooled about the big cities in the South, which Houston is the fourth largest city in America and it's the biggest city in the South. Just because you're in Houston or you're in Dallas or you're in any other big city in the South doesn't make you exempt from this. This stuff exists in the big cities also. There's certain parts of these cities that you can't be in or caught in, because there is a such thing as all white neighborhoods where they refuse to sell and property. They won't sell you property there. You can't rent there. It's certain places like that. They use different techniques to keep you from buying. So it exists in the big cities too. So just be aware of that.
Most definitely.
And I want everybody to just stay safe, and I want everybody to just remember, don't ever forget. Remember the past. Remember history. Keep your family close, your children close, and y'all stay safe. Peace. And y'all, thanks for listening to the video, you guys. Thumbs up.